In today's brief video, I want to speak to those of you guys who have successfully quit nicotine, THC, energy drinks, adult media content, alcohol, who have successfully quit an addiction for more than 90 days. And the focus of today's video is going to be on rebuilding your financial health. Addiction creates many sources of stress in a person's life, and the stressors that come with the financial aspect of addiction are often a crippling one. At least I know in my case it certainly was. And in today's video, I want to focus on 4 categories of rebuilding your financial well-being. And I'm by no means a financial advisor. I don't even know if I should be giving advice on finances, but I can say with confidence I'm doing better now than I was then. And I want to tell you guys exactly how I accomplished that. There's 4 categories you want to focus on. 1, the money that you're bringing in, the money that you're earning. 2, the money that you're spending. 3, the money that you're saving. And 4, the money that you're investing for your future, okay? So the first thing you need to do is sit down and look at the current amount of money that you're generating for yourself. Whether this is through your job, through a side hustle, however you're currently making money. And you need to come up with a really basic budget. And I don't go into detail on this, but all I would recommend doing is figuring out how much money do you need currently to survive. Like, what's your cost of living? This is the cost of your food, the cost of your gas to get to work, the cost of your rent check, just the basic bare bones minimum when it comes to your income, okay? And after you figure out how much you need to live, then you should look at how much money you're spending. So print up your credit card reports, print up your bank accounts, whatever it is, and figure out where you're spending your money on each month. Separate one category as your cost of living, and then create another category as kind of, excessive spending, unnecessary spending. And this is how you're going to start to make a budget. And this is how you're going to start to keep a closer eye on the money that's coming in that you're generating. Once you figure out how much your cost of living is and figure out where you can trim down on areas of excess spending, you're going to start by generating a savings. Maybe you put away $20 a month, maybe you put away $1,000 a month. But before you worry about investing and all those other things, you have to focus on creating a savings. Not having a savings account is a major source of stress, because then any tiny ripple in life can completely throw you off. And in the world of an addiction, that's a common cause for relapse. So I think by having a savings, and you're actually preventing yourself from possibly relapsing. And your goal in your savings account, before you worry about anything else, should be to get somewhere around $10,000. This is a base amount that most really conservative financial people recommend. You just want to work to get $10,000 in your savings account if you're not already there, okay? Now, good news and bad news when it comes to this. Bad news, when it comes to addiction, chances are we don't have a lot of money. We were spending it all on drugs. Good news is, though, when you quit an addiction, you learn self-discipline. You learn about delayed gratification. And you can apply traits such as self-discipline and delayed gratification to building a savings account. So you have the traits that you need to do this already. It's just time that you start implementing them. After you've figured out a budget and you've established a savings account, you can start to look towards investing. And what I usually recommend, or advice that's been given to me that's worked out, is investing in like the S&P 500 or other conservative index funds or ETFs. And I'm not going to go into detail what those things are. I put some recommended ones in the video description, along with some other YouTube videos on index funds and ETFs. But I think these are the safest bet for someone who's struggled with an addiction, especially if you're into gambling or things like that. You just put your money into these things, you set it there, and you worry about it 20, 40, 30 years later on. And each year you'll be making about 7 to, 13% returns on your investments into these index funds. I think the S&P 500 yields like a 7 to 10% return on average. And that's important because if you put, let's say, $1,000 into an index fund, and that year you got a 10% return, you got back $100. So you made $100 by doing nothing, by just letting your money sit there. Then the following year, now you have $2,000, $2,100. but now you're going to make 10% interest on that. So you're going to make $210 in interest if you make a 10% return. So that's compounding interest. You're now making a passive income just by putting your money into stocks and investing and not worrying about it. And I really like this because as someone who has a very addictive personality, when I was messing around with like singular stocks and trying to time the market, I was just losing money and becoming obsessed with checking my phone every day and freaking out, and honestly it just didn't work for me. And I think for most people who struggle with addiction, you want to keep things balanced, you want to keep things leveled. So I wouldn't recommend getting into singular stocks and trading individual things and trying to time the market, unless you really spend a lot of time to develop that as your skill set, okay? Now, another area that I want you to look at, and I think this one is so important, is your income, how you generate money. And I would recommend two sources of income for you, okay? The first one would be something that provides you with some degree of a steady paycheck, especially if you don't have a savings or much backup money or a trust fund or something like that. You need that consistent paycheck because that's going to keep you sane, even though the job that you're working in might be driving you insane. It at least allows for a predictable budget and a predictable monthly income. Now, while you're not working at that job that provides you with that predictable income, this is where you can go focus on some type of side hustle. I chose YouTube, I chose affiliate marketing, I chose to get into these coaching calls that we do with people one-on-one to help people quit nicotine, THC, energy drinks, and adult media content. And there's many different side hustles out there that people do. You just have to find one that you can do and that you can do consistently, and one that has an interest for you. But I recommend so strongly getting a side hustle because this might be the thing that generates that income that you can then invest, that income that you can go put into your savings. And now that you've quit smoking weed, now that you've quit watching adult media content for 6-7 hours a week, however long, quit drinking alcohol and going out to the bars, you should have a lot more time on your hands. And if you use that time to generate you additional income, you're going to get a return on your investment for your time. I think developing a side hustle and something that you take an interest in, a hobby, I don't know what, but I think that is one of the coolest things that everyone who's in addiction recovery has an opportunity to go pursue and do. And who knows, that side hustle might turn into your career one day, very similar to what's kind of happening to me now with this YouTube channel and the Addiction Mindset recovery coaching programs. So what I'm talking about though, I guess ultimately, is if you can control your sources of income. Maybe you go drive for Uber, maybe you do Uber Eats, or maybe you do, I don't know, maybe you have 2 vehicles and you rent out one of your vehicles on Toro, a car rental app, or maybe you have extra space in your house and you want to do an Airbnb. I have no idea, but just figure out additional sources of income. And this is something I want to caution against, is the money that you're spending. Pay close attention to it, and I know you're going to do that when you make your budget, but a lot of times in addiction recovery, and I did this when I quit smoking weed, I said, oh, I got $500 extra a month to spend. And I would go waste it on frivolous stuff. I'd go waste it on dinners. I would go waste it on pew-pews because I got really heavy into target shooting. And I was constantly rewarding myself for quitting this addiction. Now, I certainly do believe in rewarding yourself and, you know, buying things for yourself that you like, or taking a vacation or something because you've earned it, but don't go overboard. If you save that money, you invest that money, you create new businesses, new streams of income for yourself, then you're going to be able to reward yourself stress-free. Because what's the point in quitting smoking weed and then still blowing that $500 to $1,000 a month on frivolous stuff? You're not taking full advantage of your recovery or sobriety journey. And that's really what this channel is all about. It's all about helping you guys become obsessed with developing or creating a future for yourselves that you can be proud of. All right, guys, I hope this video helps. I have many more to come on financial health and addiction recovery, so stay tuned.